Hello everyone and welcome to the Unisys ClearPath webinar series. Today's topic, ClearPath OS 2200 Release 16.0 announcement. Let's get started. Our speakers for you today are Sam Surtok, Chuck Lefebvre, Glenn Newton, Howard Donahue, and Ritva Kengaspurko, all with Unisys ClearPath OS 2200. And with that, Sam, the audience is yours.
Thank you, Matt. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Sam Chotok, and today I'm going to share with you some exciting new information about the 16.0 release of ClearPath OS 2200. Today we're going to talk about the following topics. I'll be talking about OS 2200 Release 16.0 and some of the new products we will highlight. Then Glenn will talk to you about some of the important security updates in this launch, and we'll also hear from Chuck about some in-depth engineering updates. We'll close this presentation with Ritva and Howard talking about achieving workforce continuity and ClearPath information sources. This release was made available for order on February 23rd and includes quite a few highlights. First, we have 110 software products that were developed and tested as an integrated stack, with 39 of these products having over 135 feature updates. One of my favorite parts of this release is that over 39 of the features we've updated were a direct result of customer requests, so Unisys definitely listens to its customers. This release is supported on the listed Dorado series platforms, and as I mentioned, was available for order on February 23rd. This is our OS 2200 roadmap. We've just released OS 2200 Release 16.0, and we're now working on getting our 17.0 release ready for early next year. And as you can see, we're continually innovating to support your needs. I also want to mention that we'll be presenting some very important information about your migration options and processes later in this presentation, so please make sure to take note of that later on. OS 2200 supports your applications extremely well, and in this section, we'll talk about the new features we're introducing to keep your applications up to date with the latest technologies in the market. First, let's talk about Eclipse. Eclipse is a Java-based, extensible, open-source development platform. It's known for its extensibility, and the way it works is by providing a framework and a set of services for building a development environment from plugin components. While it's known for its use as a Java IDE, it also includes a plugin development environment, which is of interest to developers who want to extend Eclipse. Because everything in Eclipse is plugin-based, all tool developers have a level playing field for offering extensions to Eclipse and providing a consistent, integrated development environment for users. And although Eclipse is written in Java, its use isn't limited to the Java language. For example, there are plugins available or planned that include support for programming languages like C, C++, COBOL, Fortran, and Plus. We've also added many features to it that help developers create applications for OS 2200. When it comes to OS 2200, Eclipse is definitely a great tool to have since there are extensions for the base Eclipse IDE designed for work with OS 2200 applications and databases. Eclipse also provides rich editor support for COBOL, C++, Fortran, and Java development, and allows you to develop, build, deploy, debug, and test applications from the developer workstation. Unisys has also provided quite a few plugin and testing services for community-written plugins designed specifically to work with OS 2200. And finally, Eclipse also offers integrated support for Java resource adapters connecting to DMS, RDMS, BIS, TIP, and OpenDTP. Another key feature is Eclipse's ability to connect to OS 2200 via standard products, keeping all the source code on OS 2200. Eclipse also offers control and monitoring ability for OS 2200 build runs from the developer workstation via custom views. And lastly, developers can interactively debug, tip and demand programs from the developer workstation and integrate with CM+ source control. If you haven't used Eclipse yet or wondering if you should try it, you should know that Eclipse offers over 1,500 plugins in 60 categories that answer many developer needs, and more plugins are added all the time. Eclipse is also included in higher education curriculums, so you'll be able to find trained and experienced developers more easily. In this release, we've updated Eclipse 2200 to enable you to develop faster and in a more stable environment with the latest version of Eclipse. We've also added several ease of use updates that allow you to more easily develop and collaborate on your applications. The next area of expanded capabilities for OS 2200 that we'll discuss is the Unisys ClearPath ePortal for OS 2200. ePortal is an end-to-end, integrated and highly automated solution for extending Unisys ClearPath applications into new e-business technologies. ePortal uses a modular, extensible architecture for addressing a wide array of ClearPath application types. For example, using ePortal, you can generate industry-standard SOA-compliant web services interfaces from assets such as OpenDTP services, COBOL application sources, and DPS form libraries. Additionally, you can easily re-engineer your application presentation flow, generate browser-based interfaces, or target new smartphone devices such as the Apple iPhone. ePortal provides developers with world-class, industry-standard tools with a high degree of automation for application generation and management. Using ePortal, applications can be modernized in less time, with less risk, and far less technical knowledge. For OS 2200 16.0, ePortal can generate web apps for iPhone mobile Safari browser, BlackBerry, Windows Phone, and Android smartphones. It's also important to note that one ePortal presentation application can be used to target most types of smartphones, and the application will have a different look and feel on each type of smartphone. The look and feel is like a native app on each platform. ePortal also supports a variety of tablets, including iPad and Android tablets such as the Galaxy Tab, as well as BlackBerry tablets like the Playbook and Microsoft's new Windows Surface. And as with smartphones, one ePortal presentation application can be used to target all types of tablets, each with its own look and feel. In this release, we've added several key features that you can see on the slide, but I do want to focus on the Unisys Hybrid App Build Service. The Unisys Hybrid App Build Service, which is based on Apache Cordova open source project, is a cloud-based mobile application build service that allows you to submit your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript project assets to the Unisys hosted build service and receive installable applications for your targeted devices from within Microsoft Visual Studios. In the upcoming release in March, we're going to continue to enhance the features of ePortal, and we've also added a mobile simulator that will allow developers to test their apps without having to deploy on a physical device. Now let's briefly talk about Java. With this release, you can support the latest version of Java technology and JBoss Enterprise Application Platform EAP 6.2. And now I'd like to hand this over to Glenn Newton, who will talk to you about some of the exciting security features in this release. Go ahead, Glenn.
Thanks very much, Sam. Let's take a look first at Apex. Apex is a new GUI tool that we introduced in Release 15. It consolidates administrative tasks that were traditionally performed using various Unisys-provided and user-developed utilities and processes into one easy-to-use interface. The ultimate goal of Apex is to enhance the administration of the OS 2200 system to the point that a less experienced user can effectively manage the system. Apex offers a web-based tool rather than having to teach new users how to use traditional tools that require logging into a demand session, for example. This lets you reduce costs by using shared resources for administrative tasks across the data center, and it makes it easier to service and support OS 2200 in the future. Note that Apex doesn't change the concepts of OS 2200 administration, but it does simplify the interaction with the system for configuring and monitoring security in other areas. So you don't have to be an OS 2200 expert to use the tool. So initially, Apex is focused on security, but the long-term vision is to expand to encompass all OS 2200 security administration, software administration, database administration, file and storage administration, and other areas. The goal is to free the administrator from the low-level interfaces that are now required for OS 2200 system administration. Apex 2.0 builds on the features of Level 1.0 released a year ago. New in this level is the ability to print and export in CSV format, that's Excel format, user and account pages, and the security environment. As you know, systems running security level 1 or higher can use access control records to control access to files and other resources. Administrators can also define groups of users to reference in those access control records. Apex 2.0 lets the administrator manage ACRs and groups through its user-friendly browser-based interface. Two other new features are in the other administration area of Apex because they aren't security features, and they apply to all security levels from fundamental on up. One is the display of software installed on the system, including the product name, level, date installed, and other details. The next is a page that lets the administrator easily update the message of the day, and that's the message that gets displayed when somebody logs on to the system. Now, these are just the highlights. There are many other additional features that include enhancements based on user feedback on Apex 1.0. Here are some other security features. Some of you may be familiar with the Secure by Default features in the previous release. Secure by Default features let you configure systems the way you want them, but they give you a secure starting point. In this release, we've introduced more Secure by Default features with the goal to make it easy to be more secure and harder to be less secure. Let's consider this problem. You can change passwords with the transparent control statement, add password, but that's dangerous. Unlike changing passwords when you log in, when your password is blanked, anybody can see the password when you use add password because the system isn't notified and has no opportunity to blank the screen before you enter your password. So that means that somebody standing behind you, shoulder surfing, could actually see your password. Another problem with using transparent password changes is that it bypasses configured password profiles, a new feature that we introduced in the previous release, and doesn't let your configured password profile password change be noted. So with this release, the solution is that add password is disabled by default. If for some reason you feel that you need it, you can go ahead and re-enable it. Here's another one. The payment card industry data security standard requires locking out a user after 6 or fewer attempts. Now you can do that by configuring the exec today, but if you also want to use one of our hacker frustration features called delayed sign-on solicitation, then you have a problem complying with PCI DSS because delayed sign-on solicitation, which quadruples the prompt time each time the user misses the password, simply locks you out after 8 attempts. In this release, you can configure delayed sign-on solicitation so that the number of attempts the user has meets whatever your goals are, and it defaults to 6, which is what PCI DSS requires. Some of you may have heard about a catchy named vulnerability called Poodle. That was a vulnerability in the SSL protocol, one that's used to secure communications between systems and more typically between a web browser and a server. Although Poodle made the news, it's just one of several vulnerabilities that have been found in SSL over its 20-year lifetime. The successor to SSL is TLS, that's Transport Layer Security. When servers and clients connect securely, they negotiate the protocol they'll use, and with this release, the Dorado server will offer to use several levels of TLS but not SSL. Now, if you have an older system that needs to communicate with the Dorado server using SSL, you can enable it in the communications configuration, but the default is TLS. Here's some other security updates. Encryption, of course, is a very important part of every security strategy. Enterprise Output Manager has some encryption updates, as does Web Transaction Server for ClearPath OS 2200. Now, in previous releases, CPCOM supported the highest levels of TLS, 1.1 and 1.2. CPCOM OS previously only supported TLS 1.0, but in this release, it supports all of the levels of TLS, 1.1 and 1.2 included. And in addition, it offers FIPS 140-2 validated SSL and TLS. So one of the problems that we heard about from users in the field is that when their auditors looked at compliance with another PCI DSS requirement, they said, well, look, you're supposed to disable anybody who hasn't logged in within, let's say, 60 days. But when I pull up this user, it says that he's still enabled, even though it's been 62 days since he's logged on. What gives? Well, the answer has always been, that's what it says now, but when he logs on, he won't be able to because we'll disable him at that point. And that's when the auditors wrote up a finding. So what we did in this release is change the exec so that anytime you pull up that user who has passed his login threshold, he will be automatically disabled, not just the next time that he logs in. Auditors love it. Another security feature is the ZipUT utility in CIFS gives you encryption that's compatible with WinZip and other popular utilities. Sam's going to talk a little bit more about that in the context of other CIFS enhancements. Now, some of you who've been on these before have seen this diagram before, the ClearPath security proof point. In all the years that the National Institute of Standards and Technology has been tracking security issues with their National Vulnerability Database, there hasn't been a data compromise on a ClearPath Libra or Dorado system, nor has there been an externally reported security vulnerability in the OS 2200 operating environment. This unmatched security record is the direct result of thoughtful designs and careful implementations that have been refined over many years. Well, now, Poodle wasn't the first highly publicized vulnerability this past year. There were others, and in response, engineering established a security vulnerability response team. Its goal is to assess the extent of the vulnerability immediately with the help of product experts, so we can tell you if products that you may have running on your 2200 or in conjunction with it are subject to these highly publicized vulnerabilities. The team also notifies management and helps make sure that our PLEs, CTBs, and website notices are clearly worded. And finally, the team tracks the resolution of these. If you want to be sure if a vulnerability that you've heard of applies to you, you can go to the Unisys support site. If you go to support.unisys.com and then select your system model, you'll find links there that tell you about these popular vulnerabilities. So, for example, here's a screen snap from the ClearPath Dorado 6000 series support site that says, please read our communications about the following vulnerabilities, and we've got 3 of them up there. In addition, we have introduced product-specific PLEs. Sometimes we'll put a PLE up there just to say, no, in fact, this one does not apply to you, so you don't need to worry about it. And in other times we say, yes, this one could be of concern. Here are the things you need to look out for, and if you need to apply a fix, here's where to get the fix. You can search on those PLEs in our database by the CVE number. That's the Common Vulnerability and Exposure number that all of these vulnerabilities get. For the most highly publicized ones, we actually put something up on the unisys.com main pages. If you go to www.unisys.com and go to Support, and then click Security Advisory. You'll see advisories such as the one that I've shown on screen here for Poodle, Bash, and Heartbleed. And now we're going to pass it back to Sam.
Thank you, Glenn. And now let's talk about some updates we've made in the communications and networking area. Dorado systems are probably the most connected systems in the world. OS 2200 supports hundreds of thousands of concurrent users and thousands of connections to other servers. It also uses the most common communication protocols to provide as many choices as possible to you, our customers. In this release, we've made some significant updates in our communications and networking capabilities, and I would like to call out the updates we made to CP/FTP as listed on this slide, especially as it pertains to leveraging the new fabric capabilities that come with our Dorado 4300 and 6300 systems. And now let's talk about enhancements to the operating environment. CIFS for OS 2200 is an implementation of the Common Internet File System specification that allows access to OS 2200 files through standard Internet protocols. In this release, as Glenn mentioned, we've added an encryption capability to the CIFS ZipUT utility, allowing customers to encrypt and decrypt data using modern algorithms with enhanced compatibility. We've also increased our host support to enable near nonstop processing to a maximum of all 6 hosts enabled on Dorado 800, 4200, 4300, and 6300 hosts. Host types can be mixed and matched as long as the above limits are not exceeded. And now let's talk about database management. You're all familiar with RDMS, a key database solution on OS 2200. In this release, we've enhanced RDMS to support improved performance through, among other things, support for derived tables and more efficient CPU utilization. With this launch, we'd like to introduce you to a new software product called Application Integration Services, AIS, that's coming soon to OS 2200. AIS is a new product designed to make cross-platform application development much easier. In the initial release, AIS will allow inbound .NET calls to OS 2200 file access, and we're planning on many new features for AIS in the future. Before we move to the next section, I wanted to mention that we have many more details, information, and documentation around these topics on our website at unisys.com, so I encourage you to go ahead and review those if you want to learn more. Next, I'd like to talk briefly about some additional products, starting with Operations Sentinel. Unisys Operations Sentinel is a comprehensive solution that helps you manage, automate, and simplify the operations of your enterprise-wide IT infrastructure. As a fully featured solution, Operations Sentinel automates, consolidates access, monitors, and manages multiple heterogeneous systems. In the latest release of Operations Sentinel, we've added multiple features. First, we've added enhanced editing capabilities into the Auto Action Database Manager that provides more powerful visual editing features to the ADBM editor in Operations Sentinel. Next, we've improved the extension of save and cancel capabilities to custom topology window that allows users the option to save or discard any changes in the topology window without the need to navigate to the parent window. We've also added several other new features that you can see on the slide, so please make sure to visit unisys.com for more information on these and other enhancements in Operations Sentinel. Next, let's talk about EOM. EOM is an output management solution that enables you to easily and effectively deliver output where you want, when you want, and in any desired format. You can use EOM to modernize the look of application output, monitor print activity for better efficiency, and conduct business more securely by using encrypted communications and a secure user management. In this release, we've added several new features to EOM. First, with support for larger file transfer from OS 2200, users can send or receive large files without any restrictions. Next, the personalized email message body feature allows personalizing the email message body with a static or dynamic text by changing the text style, inserting file content, and inserting images and logos. We've also added many other features that are listed on this slide and in supporting documentation for EOM at unisys.com. And now I'd like to hand this off to Chuck, who will talk to you about some of the very important engineering highlights for this release. Go ahead, Chuck.
Thank you, Sam. In addition to the references on unisys.com excuse me, that Sam mentioned for the new product capabilities, you can also find much more detailed information about our new software release by either Googling or in your search engine, favorite search engine, you can put the text something similar to OS 2200 16.0 software and find all of our documentation, or go directly to www.support.unisys.com. All of our documentation, including the material specific to the new features of Release 16, are publicly accessible. You don't need credentials to access the documentation. What you'll find if you look at this detailed documentation, in particular in the software release announcement or in the PMO, the Planning and Migration Guide for Release 16, you'll find 50 pages worth of descriptive text on the new features that we're talking about today and those that we don't have time to talk about today. We've tried to improve the way we describe those capabilities and not just describe a what this new feature is, but maybe why it's important, why you should consider it, how you can use it to best effect in your organization. On this slide, I've just picked a couple of additional technical features that we've introduced in the product release in 16.0, just to give you some additional feel for what we're doing. I've highlighted a couple, about half of them here, 3 of the 6, that are coming from individual users. I expect that one or more of these submitters are probably on this webinar today. We really are trying to focus on responding quickly to what our customers are asking us to do. In the CPCOM area, the first one with SSL certificates has to do with the handshake that goes back and forth between our Dorado system and, say, an open system. We're not going to recognize SSL certificates unless it's trusted. We've put some capabilities into the product to easily capture an SSL certificate coming in and place it in the trusted file and acknowledge that it's a trusted certificate, and from then on that secure communication can occur. Just a small ease of use. The next one, in particular with CPCOM OS, which is used on our Intel-based Dorado systems, we put some things in, continually putting things in, to make it easier to manage and monitor that network infrastructure on our systems. Again, in the exec area, a couple of things from our users to make it easier. The privileged user one, the second bullet there, has to do with globally terminating all activities associated with a specific user ID. That might be used, for example, by some intrusion detection software. If something's going on, the program can quickly, privileged program can go and terminate all activities for a particular user ID. And then some IRU, our database backup and auditing software, some capabilities to integrate better with our virtual tape in the case of the replicate commands that are shown there. Some additional capabilities here in the system recovery. We are hearing quite regularly from our customers that keeping their systems running, or when they have to take them down, getting them back up as quickly as possible is a real key attribute. Our systems need to be running 7/24. When we do need to take a system down, say to put a new operating system version in, they want to come back up absolutely as quickly as possible. So we've done some work to reduce the amount of time it takes in the file recovery section during that recovery boot. And we've got some pretty remarkable reduction in time. So that might be big enough reason for some of you to go straight to 16. This time considerations topic is a broadening topic for us. If you're a technical person with a long history with OS 2200, you know that the ER to T-date dollar is going to wrap on January 1st, 2028. We are very methodically working through our software and through the data structures where we save and store the T-date dollar and taking measured actions to address this time wrap that's going to occur on January 1st, 2028. In support of that, and in support of you doing making similar adjustments where you might be using the ER to T-date dollar in your applications and storing that possibly in databases, we've brought together all of the information about using time, and we'll be documenting strategies for adjusting the way you use various time functions, describing how we're changing our system libraries to make that easier to do. That's all being documented in this new document that's in our 16.0 documentation library. We have begun making these changes, but none of them are actually enabled in the system from a compatibility issue or anything like that. So there's no migration issues at the moment to move to 16. All of these T-date changes are sort of behind the scenes so far, positioning us for future implementations. Sam mentioned on an early slide the migration from one release to the next, and that's what I'm talking about here. When we released 14.0, we recommended, in fact insisted, that everyone move from 13 to 14. To support cross boots from future levels, we wanted everybody to get to 14. However, once you're on release 14, you can migrate to 15 and cross boot back. So the darker arrow going upwards is go to that release, and the lighter arrow is if you need to cross boot back, you can. And you can proceed from 15 to 16. But the arrows around the edges show that to the left, you can go from 14 directly to 16 if you wish, skipping 15. You get all of the features, of course, that are in 15 when you move to release 16. And you can cross boot directly back from 16 to 14 if you need to. Now, we published some migration considerations in a webinar that's available on unisys.com. When we release 15, it's an interactive, voice-enabled, short PowerPoint presentation that talks about what the considerations are for migrating from 14 to 15, where we change some timestamps in various places. Of course, all of those apply equally when you move from 14 to 16. We have some documentation up on the upper right of this slide that documents that information. We've updated the migration from 14 to 15. We've reflected 16 in an updated version of that in the second document that's shown. So essentially, the bottom line, you can go from 14 to 16, and the migration effort is almost exactly the same as going from 14 to 15. So that's something you might consider as you look to the future. Some other information pertinent to our OS 2200 software package. As you know, many of the components that we deliver in our integrated software stack are actually execute on a Windows desktop or in some cases a Windows server. Microsoft, as I expect most of you know, is ending its extended support of Windows 2003 in mid-July this year. As a result, we won't be supporting any of our products executing on Windows Server 2003 from that point on. We have newer releases of our products that run on Windows 2008 and Windows 2012. So you want to be moving those Windows servers up to one of those supported Windows releases. On the right margin here, in the right column, the one area that may affect, most pertinent to some of you, is some of our older systems. That should say Dorado 700. I pardon my typo there. The operation servers on 4000s and 700 systems, some of them were shipped with Windows 2003. So those operation servers do need to upgrade to Windows 2008 or later. We're documenting some procedures and we'll be publishing them on the Unisys support site. All of those hardware servers, those operation servers themselves, are all capable of running a later Windows OS. So there's no hardware change required. It's just an upgrade to a Windows version and then install the appropriate supported version of Operation Sentinel or any other supporting software. In general, we included a link here to the Microsoft support lifecycle so you can stay current on Windows support releases and their lifecycle. In general, we will follow that Microsoft support lifecycle. So, for example, when Windows 7 support ends, we will no longer support our products running on Windows 7, 2008, etc. Okay, one of the other items that we're going to do new to support this release 16 is we're in the process of creating some additional supporting, you might call them training materials. They are primarily PowerPoint driven, but with voice over them, possibly some product demonstrations, interactive, that we'll be posting in the mid-April timeframe as additional supporting information so you and your colleagues, people on your team, can understand better what is in Release 16. You can internalize what that is, looking at those PowerPoints, not just having to read the 50 pages of documentation. We'll be advertising that as a link on a website here in the coming months, but look for that around mid-April to support that. Now, as you know, we are very committed to a rugged system test and release process of our integrated stack for OS 2200. It's very important that we maintain the high standards that we've established for quality, reliability, uptime. And this slide is just giving a quick overview of the things that we do in our processes to ensure that we maintain that high level of quality in that integrated stack. By the time we release the product, the system, the software has been run for thousands of hours on close to 45 different OS instances across a range of our system test systems, performance and scaling testing, field qualification either by customers at their premises or in some cases Unisys personnel at Dorado systems we have placed in various regions around the world. Most importantly, we drink our own champagne. Early on when we start a new exec, that begins running on our internal development systems. As we progress through various stages of our test processes, we get all of the candidate release software up and running on at least or approaching 20 systems, 20 OS 2200 systems. So our compiler team and our database team and our other development teams are using these software candidate releases in the day-to-day work that they're conducting. We are using our own software. We are proving its reliability and stability. And lastly, in the lower right, one of the last things we do is we ask our colleagues in our air passenger and air cargo development system that are based in Eagan, Minnesota and in India to bring up our latest release in the final month of our release process. So in this case, in February, they've been running those systems for their day-to-day development. So before it gets to you for your installation, it has had very significant exposure in our own environments. The last topic here I'd like to talk about real briefly is some things that we're doing to communicate better to you. You've maybe heard this in the last 6 or 9 months, but I'd like to reinforce it a little bit because it is so important to us and we believe to you. We're trying to do a better job both communicating the nature of any escapes or problems that we experience in our PLEs. We are documenting them in a slightly different way. We're adding a criticality assessment and an impact assessment inside the PLE text. And we've created a weekly report that you can subscribe to that comes out to you and says, here are the 5 PLEs, 8 PLEs problems that we have resolved this week. And you can scan those. They're sorted by criticality. And you can quickly scan those and look, they're color-coded. Most important, in a red color down to a low criticality in a green color. So as I said, each of the PLEs, when we are writing up the symptoms of the problem and our corrective action, we assess them using the best of our judgment on its impact and probability of occurring, and together that those two factors get evaluated and this criticality value is established. You get a weekly email if you wish, and I have text there in the upper left. If you go to www.support.unisys.com and under support options, you'll see a link that says your user profile, and you can register to receive these weekly emails. Of course, you can go in, each one of your sites has a coordinator that can add other users as well. So it doesn't have to be limited to a small number of people. You can add additional people and get these weekly emails. We've been getting lots of positive feedback. It allows you to quickly scan, here's what's new, and determine if you need to take any action to put any of those corrections in. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ritva to take us into the next major topic of our session today. Ritva?
Yes, hello everyone. So in this section, Jack, Howard, and I will be talking about achieving workforce continuity. And it's basically meaning how do you bring new people, new hires up to speed with ClearPath. So there is a lots of things you can do today. You can educate your people. We have OS 2200 course catalog available. It was updated last year. Secondly, we have services. We have a full set of, complete set, I should say, services. And I personally would really recommend looking at ClearPath advisory services where you get very concrete maps. And of course, these services are tailored to your needs, whatever you need. It's all there. Thirdly, the tools. So you can use industry standard, industry popular tools and skills to develop, deploy, and manage ClearPath-based applications. We have a lot available in this area. This has been something where we've been active for a very long time. So So it's not something we started last year. But all the time we are adding new, and as you're going to be here in this webinar, there are more that have been added. So we have a very rich set of tools there, and more is being added as we speak. And then application discovery. Application discovery is important. So it is important to be able to transfer the knowledge, the business processes and business kind of competitive edge and all those things that are in the ClearPath-based applications to the new hires. And we have partnered with Hard Systems and to enable you to do that. So let's look at some things that might be interesting to you. The ClearPath Connection October 2014 was fully dedicated showing how you can address the continuity of the ClearPath skills. So then in December 2014, newsletter is all about how Unisys is addressing the continuity of the ClearPath skills. And the lead article is by Jim Thompson, Engineering a Bright Future for the ClearPath Program. And I think it's very interesting. In that, he is explaining how engineering is going about that. He's, of course, talking about the strategies, but he's talking about the skills as well. And in that, he's talking, first of all, any new hire or any intern that we get, and we get the interns, lots of interns. So they all given real work. From day one, they get real work because it is believed that you learn by doing. The other thing that they are given immediately is a mentor. And mentoring here is not somebody that you speak a couple of times a year. It's day-to-day guidance, always available to the new hires and interns. And that has been working really well. So then we have interviewed and we have talked and with our new hires as part of these newsletters, and some of the new hires have written articles like this How I Came to Know and Love OS 2200, who is by Christopher Korsenovsky in December version, and he and also the others that we've talked to, they more or less all say the same things a little bit differently. Basically, the mentoring is key. Doing real work is really exciting. And then, but what has also become very, very clear through these discussions is that they all think that Eclipse IDE is so important. It helps them to see the OS 2200. And the other one that they all say is important is SIFs. They also think that the documentation works well in like the glossaries and things like that. And we also have our internal kind of knowledge-based site where they can go and understand things. So, and we would recommend you to do the same thing. It's been very, very inspiring and exciting to us who work with the newsletter to talk with these people and see their excitement and see how fast they actually been able to be productive. And so I think the engineering here has really figured out something. I'm sure they all the time looking, but this has been in place now a couple of years. And the people that we've talked, they all have been productive in a couple of weeks. And when we talk to their managers, they've been confirming exactly that. So ClearPath Connection March 2015 will be available fairly soon, and that's going to have that will have articles about the 2200 release 16. But there's also an article by OS 2200 engineer Grant Elbert, and he's going to talk how he became productive and got to know ClearPath OS 2200. So then just a couple of words about education. The customer education homepage is where you want to go. We've been updating all these catalogs. There's OS 2200 course catalog. We can do classroom training, self-paced training, instructor-led web-based training. So all that is available. And with that, I want to turn over back to Chuck.
Thank you, Ritva. So as Ritva said, we are really putting a lot of focus in our investment in our software on making these OS 2200 systems easier to use for the new workforce that you are hiring. If your staff profile is anything like ours has been, we are going through a transition to a younger workforce, and we're sure you are doing that too. And as you do that, we want it to be seamless for you, and we want the younger generation to be able to use tools, techniques, interface models that they're familiar with as they come on to your staff and begin working with the OS 2200 systems. And we're doing that both for application development and, more importantly, maintenance, as well as system administration. Now, Sam talked about the Eclipse product earlier today in this presentation. I'd like to put it in the context of this workforce renewal, workforce continuity. We have a tool with Eclipse and the plugins that we've done. Over the last couple of years, it has matured very, very nicely. The product can now be used for not only COBOL, which we would expect many of you have a lot of COBOL you need to manage and maintain and enhance. But recently we've added unique capabilities to support the DMS and RDMS interfaces that you would be using in COBOL, and the ability to edit run streams, ECL, some tool tips and so forth for ECL. All of us are real comfortable using the good old OS 2200 exec control language for building run streams, but might be foreign to some new people. So you can use Eclipse and its smart editor to help people get their arms around it. I've done a lot with procs in the PDP processor to make it more natural. Eclipse is a free download. Our plugins are available as a download. There's really no reason you shouldn't look at this, both to see how you as a senior technical person might take advantage of it, but as important or more important, how you could use it to bring your new staff in and get productive even faster in the development environments. For a number of years now, our Biz product, many of you know it fondly as Mapper, has had a workstation-based developer workshop. Very similar. It's a workstation environment, not just command line, to help with that more modern development approach and interface. A number of years ago, we introduced JavaScript as a second scripting language in addition to the traditional Biz scripting language. That developer workshop can be used with both of those scripting languages. Again, if you're into the Biz Mapper application development in a big way, if you haven't, suggest you take a look at the Biz Developer Workshop, especially as you're bringing newer staff on board. We've mentioned previously ePortal. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it has and continues to be Visual Studio based, the Microsoft development environment, and a way to take user interfaces for OS 2200 and MCP, ClearPath programs, and refresh the presentation layer, focusing just on that presentation layer. Break the presentation, separate it from the logic, and put a very fresh user interface, and Sam talked about that. The reason I bring it up is we're doing additional extensions around the Visual Studio development tooling as additional extensions to it specific for OS 2200. Sam mentioned one of those, the Application Integration Services, which is all about making it easier to create Windows-based applications that call on 2200 services. Now, we've done that in the past. We've built middleware to do this in the past that hasn't gotten a very large adoption. In this case, we're changing the way, the paradigm that it's being used and making it oriented around what is the Visual Studio Microsoft paradigm. So it's this software is oriented toward that new programmer. Visual Studio is trying to write a Windows-based service that gets data or writes data, calls transactions on the 2200 with some native methods. So this we're just introducing. If you're interested in using this capability, talk to your Unisys salesperson, have them get in touch with Sam or I, and we can get you started on some evaluation of this. We're extending this further to allow you in the Visual Studio environment to edit, compile, and manage COBOL, C, ECL code within the Visual Studio environment. That's in addition to Eclipse. So a comparable capability in Visual Studio as we have in Eclipse. Some of your organizations are very focused and have a preferred development environment oriented around Visual Studio. Again, if you're interested in that, get in touch with Sam or I, and we can talk about how we can get you involved in some early adopter activities with that. On the systems management side, again, focusing on visual tooling, browser-based interfaces to manage that OS 2200 system. We've had that in the operations and print management area. As Glenn talked, we're extending that to many other areas now with the software that we've branded as Apex. Really suggest you take a look at that in the 16.0, see how it could help you today, as Glenn said, in the security area. In the future, we'll be extending it to other areas. And now I'll transition over to Howard Donahue to complete the discussion on workforce continuity. Howard?
Okay, Chuck, thank you. I think the rest of the team's done a very good job from Sam and Glenn and Chuck talking about the modernization solutions that we've added now to the ClearPath environment. The main focus of this slide was to kind of pull that together a bit in a summary and really talk about how this focuses on leveraging the investment in the business IP that have been put into the applications. So these tool sets, the contemporary development environments that we've talked about, the plugins for Eclipse, developing in Java and .NET, using the Visual Basic as a Visual Studio as a development platform, open standards for the integration with things like the appliances that we have around the J processor, Q processor, the web and SOA integration, things like web services, and we heard that AIS coming more in the future to work on the integration across platforms. The Java integration with J processor, the mobile enablement using ePortal, the enhancements that have come along with that to help the applications being exposed to mobile devices, tablets and phones, the message queuing and monitoring, and the enterprise messaging. These are all key additions that we've been making to the software and to the environments and the solutions that really help leverage the performance, the security, and the reliability attributes that we have with the ClearPath systems. So what I'd like to talk a little bit about are the services, the ClearPath application advisory services. Ritva mentioned those earlier. The advisory services are an easy way to start the conversation, to get an introduction, to get the teams together, and to really develop a plan and assess some of the options that would be available, to leverage some of the solutions and products that we talked about, and to develop a roadmap around your application development. There's a couple of services that I'd just like to talk about here. One is application discovery. This one really gets into the assessment of your application portfolio and includes code level analysis. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The focus is really on improving execution here and efficiency. Application performance analysis for environments where there's a specific application where you think there's some performance issues, bringing the team together to help look at the performance of that, identify any bottlenecks, an opportunity for optimizing the performance. And then what we call an application modernization workshop, which is another level down from application discovery, where we have a list of targeted applications we can drill down to the next level and really talk about how we could help modernize those applications and put a plan in place to do that, including some initial rough order of magnitude costing. So the advisory services are a good entry point and a good place to start. Just wanted to point out a little bit where those services fit in the overall flow of the ClearPath services. The advisory services, you can see here, there's a number that we have there around discover and analyze. Some of you may be familiar with things like the ClearPath appraisal if you've done those or you haven't done those, really focusing on how we can look at where you are kind of on a scale of integration and modernization to take a look at your current state and help develop the future state. The TCO assessment, total cost of ownership assessment, is very helpful for people who want to understand, how the cost of their ClearPath system would compare in terms of other platforms, and the advisory services that I mentioned a few minutes ago. The platform implementation service area, most of you are familiar with. These are the kinds of services we do day in and day out relative to our environments, hardware upgrades, and so forth. And then on the right-hand side is really the modernization services, the actual implementation of those modernization services, all the way through ClearPath managed services. Many people are now looking at, are there ways that they could leverage some resources within Unisys to help with the management of either their application environment or some of their operational areas. Around the application discovery, Rick mentioned that we are partnering now with the HAFA systems. This came out of our partnership from our federal systems group in the Washington, D.C. area. We found a partner that has an object management group-based tool for helping us to go through and look at the code, develop a knowledge discovery meta model for the code, and really help to get a view of the applications in a standard way. So we can analyze and look for opportunities for improvement, areas like documentation. I just want to talk a little bit about our global services organization. In addition to the resources that we have locally, we do have resources in a global environment to help do some application work. And many times this is a cost-effective way to get some ongoing either maintenance, user interface modernization, testing done through this organization, and in some cases, actually doing some of the enhancement work. These people do this for a number of our internal Unisys applications that we provide, and leveraging them to help in areas where you may see an opportunity would benefit if you have some staff availability issues in that area. So this brings me a bit to addressing your ClearPath skills issues. Rita talked about this. She talked a bit about what Unisys is doing internally to deal with the issue of staff that's approaching retirement or other forms of attrition. One thing, obviously, is we could work with is providing a training plan. Rita talked about the ClearPath Customer Education Organization. We talked a bit about leveraging some of the products that use the open development standards that increase the pool of resources available to you. And Also, I mentioned that you could contract with the Unisys for services to help in this area, both around the applications and maybe some ongoing enhancements and maintenance around the applications. What else we can do in this area is help evaluating and recommending some skill refresh plans. We've been working this now for a while internally. We have some methods that we use in order to help put together some plans on where we would look to refresh the skills. We talked about potentially offloading some of the ClearPath work, training. The new resources, both yours and ours, that we bring in to be able to work with them. In some cases, we've actually had resources come on board in certain areas, and those resources later became available to some of our ClearPath sites, and those people were actually transferred over and became part of the client organization. And then future development, with the enterprise solutions and the SI team, taking a look at how we can help you with your future development needs. So some recommendations for the ClearPath Skills Refresh. We talked a little bit about leveraging some of the tactics that Unisys has done internally. Ridva mentioned the use of college interns, where we have a base facility like we have in Roseville in our Malvern facility. We're able to recruit college interns and bring those in, and the engineering team, the technology products team, has done an excellent job around that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The mentoring programs that Ritva mentioned, having these people assigned to a mentor, and then that mentor on a daily basis, taking them through and helping them get engaged in doing, let's just say, real productive work, and you see that reflected in some of the newsletter items that Ritva mentioned about how they came to love the OS 2200. The ClearPath classes, we talked again about the products opportunities for outsourcing. And then succession plan and renewal within some key areas. We've done this not just in the technology area, but also within our sales and sales support areas. We have some of the same issues in a number of key functional areas that require that we develop succession plans and put those in place. So my last slide here is a little bit about new faces in key places, and this was taken at the Universe conference that was held here in the U.S. And I want to point out that a number of people, particularly in the technology products area, they started their program in 2008, so it's been ongoing, and they do somewhat of a fall class, and they go through the spring. So they get hires in the fall, and then they get a lot of interns and college graduates in the springtime. And this current class that they have includes almost 30 interns and new hires, both in the Roseville and Malvern teams. And these were just a group. There actually were 10 of them. 3 didn't make the picture, but the 7 that were at the Universe conference, and if you were there, you may have run into them, and they were attending a number of the sessions, just so they could see, a number of Unisys clients, and the clients could see, some of the new faces that we're bringing on board. But in addition to that, on the service delivery side, the people we have in our field organization to go out and support our ClearPath accounts, we've started a program, and we'll be filling about 16 positions, some of which we've already filled in the UK and in Sweden around some of our key OS 2200 accounts, and here in the US for the first half of 2015. So we are bringing in new resources to help in terms of filling a number of those positions. On the MCP side, we also have an ongoing student program in Latin America that's been used now for quite a while. And with that, I will turn it back to Ritva.
Okay. Hello, everyone again. Let me also say about these skills issues that skills is not just about IT, it's also other industries. So it's been interesting working with different partners to see how other industries have these similar issues. Okay, so now we're going to talk about ClearPath information sources and what we have to offer, and actually a lot has happened recently since we spoke last year ago. So first of all, we have changed the way you can subscribe emails and newsletters. So for ClearPath users, we have this one place where you go, you sign up for newsletters and latest news. We have combined all the older systems, and so if you subscribe ClearPath Connection, you should be able to, you should be in the system. You may want to try this sign up anyway. And if you wonder where the sign up, how do you find it? From unisys.com, from the main ClearPath page, on the right-hand side, kind of in the higher upper, and it says sign up for news and newsletters. So that's how you find it. And there are lots of legal issues here that there are many countries have rules that we have to follow. So something like we need to know the country where you are. And for developing agility newsletter for EAE and AP Suite users, there is a separate subscription system. So we have in the ClearPath Dorado OS 2200 world something really big in addition to this big thing happening this year. So I hope you have signed up and you get the newsletters. I think there is a very historic announcement coming, so I hope you sign up. So then about the newsletters, so December issues are the latest newsletters. I do have to say, and it was very exciting to talk with all these new hires, many of them who were interns first. And so I hope you see this. We have in any ClearPath Connection newsletter, any email you get from us, there is a sign up, the register. It all goes to same places. It's advertised in many ways. All newsletters, all emails have that. And by the way, all the newsletters we have archives, and also all the newsletter articles are in their own web page, searchable by search engines. So moving on, ebooks. So we have these 3 high-level ebooks at the moment. Understanding the economics of ClearPath systems. This is a very high level. It is related to the white paper, delivering value, the economics of the ClearPath system. So they are kind of like a pair. And this is more meant for the managers who are very busy and who don't have time to read the white paper, even though we do recommend reading the white paper. It's a very good one. So then we have this built for today, ready for tomorrow, Unisys ClearPath Systems. It's an ebook. It has updated with the latest 6 systems, Dorado systems that were launched not a long time ago. So it's updated. And how to shift your IT focus from administration to innovation. It describes about our services and how they might help you. So as I said, these are high level. You might be getting new managers who don't know ClearPath. This might be helpful in those cases. We're working on the 4th ebook, which is about leveraging the fabric. I hope to have that within the month or 2. So hopefully you follow our social media so you get the notification when that becomes available. So we use Unisys corporate Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Google as a standard advertising like these kind of events. We have a ClearPath blog, which is ClearPath specific, obviously, and we have a ClearPath YouTube videos. So those 2 are ClearPath specific. So then last year it was very exciting. We announced 6 new Dorado systems. These are fabric-based systems, so all new architecture. And I'm happy to say we are very, very delighted that these were popular immediately from the start. So I just wanted to kind of collect what kind of material collateral we have available. We did a press release. We got the good press coverage. We even had the picture on the Times Square. We had the newsletter. June 2014 was totally dedicated to that. ClearPath Executive Overview is kind of a high-level glossy brochure. And then these others, ensuring continuity of ClearPath skills, ClearPath application services, which is the product, and the ClearPath fabric-based systems, these are one-pagers. And again, trying to say things very clear and concise manner for those people who don't want to read too much. But those who have some, who want to know a little bit more, we have the white paper ClearPath systems with fabric-based infrastructure that Peter did, so that's available. And then the webinar recording is available on unisys.com. So as I said, the webinar recording and this webinar recording will also be posted there. So there is a one page that have all the webinars. One way, if you don't find it immediately, every newsletter has this link to the El Dorado webcast recordings. And like this recording will be there within the 5-6 days. So white paper examples, a lot has happened here. The delivering value, the economics of the ClearPath system, it's oriented for people who are kind of financial people. It has been updated. Understanding IT cost is all new, and it is much related to these new services we have, the ClearPath TCO services and ClearPath, I shouldn't say ClearPath, it's just TCO services in comparison services, so kind of financial analysis, and they can be for ClearPath, but they can be actually on the entire data center. And this white paper explains what kind of things and financial analysis tools we have and what kind of results we've seen and what you ought to think. So highly recommended. ClearPath as an open system has been updated, and ClearPath integrated hardware stacks. White paper has been updated. Understanding IT system state experiences from the ClearPath appraisal process has been updated. The system management paper has been updated, and the ClearPath OS 2200 unsurpassed security. I love that paper. I think it's fantastic, and Glenn Newton wrote it. I call it pure poetry, but actually Glenn has written 9 OS 2200 security white papers. I highly recommend, and these are technical papers, and I think we are very lucky to have this kind of set of security white papers, and also all the other white papers. So YouTube, I'm not going to spend too much time with this, but there's 136 videos. They organized in playlists. Playlists are important because they kind of give you idea by the topic, and otherwise it would be difficult to follow. The BIS, I think, videos are newest, and there will be new BIS videos that we will be posting in the next 2 weeks. So so there's a lot going on. Obviously, OS 2200, there's ongoing development, enhancement, improvement all the time going on. It's a non-stop. And as you've seen, we really remain invested in keeping your systems very secure. And then this ease of use, easy to develop, easy to deploy, easy to manage your ClearPath applications. It is very key. It continues to be key. It has been key with this release. So all these simplification, automation, and industry standards are very important. And I would really recommend you leverage ClearPath services. They can be tailored to what you need and what your particular needs. I would also want to say that this technical update that will become available, we've never done that before. So there will be a lot of very technical material to learn more about this release. It's kind of a first time ever, so highly recommended. This release is available now, so enjoy OS 2200 release 16.0. And with that, I'm turning to Matt.
Excellent. Thank you, Ritva. And that does bring us to the Q&A portion of today's presentation. Again, if you do have questions for our presenters, so you can send those across using the chat box in the lower right-hand side of your control panel. We have had a few questions come across from the audience at this point, so we'll just go ahead and get started with those. And the first question that I have is, we have recently installed OS 2200 release 14.0. Now that you have released 16.0, do you recommend we first go to 15.0 and then to 16, or go straight to 16.0?
Yeah, Matt, this is Chuck Lefebvre. I can probably answer that. We would recommend, now that we've released 16, that you go straight to 16. We have full confidence in that release. The migration activities to move from 14 to 16, as I said, would be very similar as if you would be going to 15, but you get everything, all the benefits of both 15 and 16. So it's pretty clear in our mind we'd recommend you go straight to 16. That would be the best path.
Excellent. Thank you, Chuck. And the next question that we have is, you seem to have done a lot more work with this new Apex component. It seems to overlap with an existing product, Security Admin. What are plans in this area?
So Glenn, why don't you take that one?
I'll be glad to. The Apex team is working on being able to do everything with Apex that can be done with security administration product. And Apex is the strategic product going forward. So at the point that Apex is able to do everything that Security Admin can do, including incorporating the command line utility, then we will stop enhancing Security Admin and basically put Apex in its place.
Excellent. Thank you, Glenn. The next question I have, Ritva, maybe you can help me out on this. I know that we are making the recording of this event here today available on the Unisys website. Do you know if the attendees will be receiving a complete PowerPoint presentation with it as well, or will it be PDF?
It will be PDF, but all the links will be working in it. So when we are posting this recording on the website, we will post, of course, the recording, but also the presentation in the PDF format. And if there is some urgent need, we can answer you. But one way maybe is this related to the customer education? If you should be able to search Unisys customer education to find. I think actually if you find ClearPath customer education, that should you should be able to find all these catalogs and these classes, if that's the second question that I saw coming in.
Excellent.
But if there's something,
that was going to be the next question I had. Is is there a list of classes somewhere where people can reference?
Yeah, there is a website, and then there is also a then there is also the Unisys website, which you find with this. If you do ClearPath Customer Education, you should find our homepage where all the catalogs and also other links where you can go and take a look. But if there's any other urgent questions, and you can't wait for this to be posted, just contact us and we will answer you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ritva. And I do believe that is going to be all the time that we do have for questions today. I know that we have a number of questions we weren't able to get to. We did run just a little bit long, but we will be following up with you directly via email after this presentation. But at this point, I guess, Sam, I would like to send it back to you for any closing statements that you have for our audience.
Sure. Thank you, Matt. So again, I'd like to thank you for joining this presentation, and I really hope you enjoyed the content we provided. Let us know if there's anything else we can do to help. I would like to close by reminding you that this release features 110 software products that were tested and developed as an integrated stack, and we have many new features and updates that will help you run your systems more efficiently, effectively, and securely. I'd also like to encourage you to visit unisys.com and work with your Unisys representative to learn more about this exciting new release. So again, thank you for joining, and I wish you a great day.
Excellent. And I would like to go ahead and thank all of my presenters for another fantastic presentation. That does conclude today's event. Again, the recorded version of today's webinar will be made available for download on the Unisys website. And I would like to thank all of you for attending, and have a great day.